A while ago now, I put out a call for you guys to tell me some of your favorite games so I could give you game recommendations. That video unfortunately got scrapped because it really sucked. But I have now revised it, and this is the new version of Recommending You Video Games, the video series where you tell me games that you like and I suggest other video games that you can play. And I wouldn't be able to do this without my video recommendation robot. This guy over here, a gaming recommendation robot, which is really simple and straightforward to use. I just input coordinates in here of the games that you enjoy, and the robot will tell me other games that you might also enjoy. Yep, we're really doing this. That's right. I have a bunch of submissions from people who want games recommended to them, so we're going to be going through those today. But if you want a game recommended to you, make sure you go down in the comments below and leave me 3 games that you're really enjoying playing at the moment. I only need 3 games and a genre, and I can enter that into the gaming recommendation bot here, and he'll be able to spit out some recommendations for you. So go ahead and leave that in the comments down below for the next video. If you're not already subscribed, you may as well hit the subscribe button as well. But let's kick on with the very first recommendation. Okay, the first subscriber today is Austin Poe, saying games he's recently played is Jak 2, Medieval, Hotline Miami, and World War Z. A kind of weird mix of games here, Poe, but let's see what Game Recommendation Bot thinks. What do you recommend for Poe, Game Recommendation Bot? Fantastic choice, guys. Fantastic choice, Game Recommendation Bot. Yeah, Poe, have you played Ratchet & Clank? 2016's Ratchet & Clank we're talking about here. Not the PlayStation 5 version, which not many people can get their hands on because PS5s are so scarce. But 2016's Ratchet & Clank is a reimagining or a remaster of the very original Ratchet & Clank game. It's a fantastic mascot platformer style game that is honestly really fun for people of all ages. If you enjoy the Jak series or the Medieval series, it is just like these games in terms of it being a mascot platformer with really cool combat mechanics and really cool action platform mechanics as well. The platinum trophy for this game as well is a pretty damn enjoyable one, except for one trophy which does make the platinum missable, so you do need to look at a guide to make sure you get that. But otherwise, a really good game here, and one I think you'll enjoy. Next we have Anish, who said games that they really love are God of War, Persona 5, Witcher 3, and Rocket League. So a couple of massive single player adventures and then a multiplayer choice here. So let's see what Game Recommendation Bot has to say about this one. It's a really good choice. It's a slightly older game, but Fallout 4 is a really great Western RPG I can see, which I think does fit in with some of these things here. God of War, Persona, and The Witcher 3. You've got your classic RPG elements here, a massive open world to explore, and a really cool setting as well. Fallout 4 gets a lot of flack, I think, because of Fallout 76 and kind of the wagon that Bethesda's fallen off in recent times, but Fallout 4 is a really great Western RPG that I do recommend checking out. Platinum Trophy in this game is also fantastic, with a couple of missable trophies towards the end. But if you're making a lot of manual saves throughout this game, you won't have any missables, and you'll be able to get the platinum in a single playthrough, which is always a good thing for me. Jazz JD says Detroit Become Human and A Way Out. He hasn't given a genre, so it's going to be a little bit hard to get accurate reading from Gaming Recommendation Bot, but let's see how we go. Heavy Rain is a great choice as well, absolutely. If you've played Detroit Become Human, there's a pretty good chance that you probably played Heavy Rain already, but it is a very similar game in terms of being highly narrative and cinematic. Plays almost identical to Detroit, just a little bit older and a little bit clunkier, but it tells a really intriguing story about a kid who goes missing and a serial killer trying to kill him. You play as a bunch of different characters, very similar to Detroit, who all kind of intertwine in weird ways to weave this kind of incredible narrative. It's really worth playing. I know after you've played it once, the entire sort of premise of it does kind of get ruined for subsequent playthroughs, but it is worth checking out. Highly recommend it, especially if you enjoyed Detroit Become Human. Kumar says, I'm playing more story-driven, less gameplay games. Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, Telltale The Walking Dead, and The Wolf Among Us. Honestly, I think I can take this without Game Recommendation Bot. I'm going to say Heavy Rain again for this one here. If you haven't played Heavy Rain, highly recommend checking it out. It fits very much in line with those Telltale games and Detroit and Until Dawn, obviously made by the guys who made Detroit as well, so you kind of get that DNA there too. But it definitely fits into that same space of narrative-driven games that you're clearly playing at the moment. So I think it's a safe bet to say Heavy Rain for this one too. Sick Heart says Hitman Blood Money is one of my favorite games ever. I think this is a fairly easy one, but let's see what Game Recommendation Bot has to say. Any other Hitman game? We've got a bunch of Hitman games that have come out on the PlayStation 4 generation. You Hitman 1, Hitman 2, and Hitman 3, all really great iterations of Hitman Blood Money. And we have a Hitman collection available now as well, where you can play, I believe, Blood Money and one of the other Hitman games all in one massive package, and they do go discount pretty frequently as well. So if you enjoy that genre of sort of the random and sporadic nature of being able to go and take somebody out, play more of it. I think it's a really good option. In terms of other alternatives to Hitman, it really does sit a lot on its own. There are some indie and AA versions versions of Hitman, but none of them come close to what they've done in the actual Hitman trilogy, especially the PlayStation 4 trilogy, which is absolutely great. Magnus says his favorite games, God of War, Spider-Man, Star Wars Fallen Order, and Ratchet & Clank, and R6, which I think is Rainbow Six. I certainly hope it's not Resident Evil 6. Some really, really good story-driven games here, and some really superb platinum games as well. What do we think, game recommendation bot? Ah, of course, Ghost of Tsushima is a great single-player action game, and if you've played God of War and Spider-Man, you know exactly what you're in here from Sony. You've got your narrative-driven gameplay, which transitions to narrative and gameplay and cutscenes very seamlessly. You've got a really cool open world to explore, and if you like the hack-and-slash elements from Star Wars, even Spider-Man to a degree, the beat-em-up stuff, and God of War, Ghost of Tsushima has a very, very similar combat style to those games as well, in terms of being able to just destroy enemies. The Platinum Trophy in this game is also fantastic. It's completely unmissable. You can play through the whole game and you don't have to worry about missing a single trophy, which means you can do cleanup at the end, which is just a perfect trophy list. So Ghost of Tsushima absolutely is my recommendation here. Magnetic Storm says the two games I've played recently and really enjoyed are Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War. So another person who's playing Sony first party, I guess story-driven games here. What do we think, game recommendation bot? Cool, so we've got Ghost of Tsushima twice in a row. Yeah. Have we got something else that would be similar to Ghost of Tsushima perhaps that we could recommend? One of, I think, the best games that came out on the PlayStation 4 generation. Not necessarily the best in terms of overall gameplay and really pushing any boundaries, but definitely one of the best games in terms of accessibility and trophies, Spider-Man, which is just great. It's accessible for all ages, it's really fun, it has good gameplay, it's got a good narrative to it, and it has a perfect trophy list. It's a really just very, very good, well-rounded game that's not too difficult for newer gamers or younger gamers, and it is equally challenging for older gamers alike. So I think Insomniac's Spider-Man is a fantastic choice here, especially if you liked Horizon Zero Dawn or God of War, then definitely check out Spider-Man. Alter Bridge says Concrete Genie, Love Heart. And that's it, just Concrete Genie, just one game. So this could be a little bit hard for game recommendation bot.
I'd like to leave more games.
Yeah, I know he didn't follow the rules, he didn't leave 3 games like we need, but can you give him maybe some recommendation, maybe a platformer that he would enjoy if he enjoyed Concrete Genie? Well, we've already talked about Ratchet & Clank, so Alter Bridge, go and leave a couple more games in your next comment, but Ratchet & Clank is a good option here. We have discussed it a little bit at the beginning when we talked about Pose games, but we're recommending Ratchet & Clank for you as well. JSina says, playing Final Fantasy X and X-2 remastered, in progress of hunting the plat. And those are very respectable platinums to earn as well. I actually never got around to finishing Final Fantasy X-2, I must say, and I haven't played Final Fantasy X since the PlayStation 2 era, which was a long time ago. I do need to revisit those games at some point in the future. They are very classic Final Fantasy JRPGs, and some of the more popular JRPGs, especially after some of the stuff we've had in more recent times. What do we recommend to Jaya? Game recommendation bot. Of course. Persona 5, it's a no-brainer, right? Persona 5 fits in perfectly with that Final Fantasy game style, and I would even go as far to argue that Persona has kind of killed Final Fantasy to a degree, especially in the more recent iterations of Final Fantasy. We don't know what's going to happen with the newest Final Fantasy game, but if it was anything like the last one, you know, Persona is in a really good place to take much more of their market share, but who knows? If you enjoy those games, I think you're going to enjoy Persona, which is a very classic JRPG in the same sense as Final Fantasy. The difference, I would say, is probably just how jazzy and stylish Persona is. The gameplay and fundamentals are very much the same as any turn-based JRPG, but the package that it is all packaged up and encompassed in, I think, is what makes this thing just so snazzy and stylish and different and interesting that I have to recommend this to anyone who loves JRPGs. And I'm sure you've played it, but let us know in the comments. Miguel says, I'm currently playing through the Yakuza series, which I'm loving so far. After that, I'm jumping on Cyberpunk. My backlog is looking crazy right now. Well, we are unfortunately gonna make that backlog even bigger by recommending another game to you. Yakuza and Cyberpunk. I wonder what the combination here could be. Game recommendation bot. Judgment is basically a spin-off of the Yakuza franchise. You play as a detective rather than a Yakuza, but the gameplay and everything does remain much the same. If you haven't played it, you should definitely check it out because it feels very much like you're playing a Yakuza game, even though you're actually not. And it's a lot of fun and easy and intuitive to pick up and play if you've played the Yakuza games with those kind of crazy mini games and things in there as well, but a bunch of new mechanics linked to being a detective and solving crimes. Asad says, AAA RPGs and classic RPGs. I'm also playing AC Odyssey, but finding more fun with Pathfinder Kingmaker. Interesting choice here. Looks like he's a bit of an RPG fan. I know we've talked about a couple of JRPGs, but what do we have in store for Asad?
The Witcher 3.
probably the most classic AAA RPG on the PlayStation 4. I mean, Fallout 4 is kind of up there as well, but The Witcher 3 is a great choice here. If you haven't already played it, it is very much a classic RPG. Well, it's a new and modern RPG, but it is a classic. It's one that you have to absolutely play if you love that genre. It does everything you would want from an RPG, with exploration, leveling, side quests that are incredibly expansive, and a great narrative to it as well, which I know some RPGs kind of do lack. So definitely check this one out if you're looking for a really solid RPG to sink your teeth into. Alright, that is all the recommendations we have time for this video, but if you want to have some games recommended to you, make sure you leave a comment down below letting me know 3 games that you're playing and a genre that you particularly enjoy, and we'll be able to make some game recommendations for you based on that information. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and leave a like for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now. Patreons for this month, thank you so very much for helping to support the channel and keep the lights on. Patrons will be seeing their names showing up here next to me right now. Thank you to every single one of you, and also YouTube channel members as well. If you want to become a member of the YouTube channel, you can hit the join button down below. Not only do you get your name featured here at the end of every video, but you will also get exclusive emotes to you in my comment section and chat as well, and a badge next to your name showing you are a legend. Likewise, if you want to join the Patreon, link in the description down below. Thank you, each and every one of you, so very much.